don't even know what to say anymore. This video is going to be super. Man, are some people ticked at me. Oh boy. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the show. We got green blue algo in the chat already. What's up, everyone? It's my favorite blockchain about to evolve into something even better. Well, I don't know. Interesting talk. So the big news that we're going to talk about on all this stuff today is the Algorand Foundation's deal with World Chess. We're going to go through this. There's some new information we haven't covered yet. Some people got to see it in the channel member video yesterday. I got a little early peek at that. I actually went on Zach Humphrey's Twitter space too, X space, whatever you want to call it, to talk about that as well. And got some takes from them also. So I'm going to share what they said. We're going to go through that. But we got other Algorand and Hedera news today. That's mostly what we're going to be talking about. So good stuff there. And I do want to give a big shout out to Zach Humphreys for bringing me up. And he seems to always bring me up when I come on, which is pretty cool, I think, in my opinion. So lots to talk about in that news. And boy, are they not happy. Now, the good news is crypto is starting to turn around. We will look at the charts today and dig into that. Definitely got some good news around Hedera, so we'll cover that. No Chainlink or Ondo news today. I think we're mostly going to focus on this this crazy news, man. This crazy news around Algorand and World Chess. I've been giving it a lot of thought. I've been thinking it through and trying to figure out, you know, how I feel about this, because I think it's I don't think it's good. I think there's some longer term trends. I almost posted. I started working on a Substack post. I'll probably publish that later today. Green Blue Augustine was what does a hostile takeover of a blockchain look like? Well, he says get Scaramucci on the horn. Yeah, I know. Well, I just saw a picture of Scaramucci with Stacey Warden and one of the Fed governors, Waller. Steve Waller is that his name? I should remember that. I can probably look that up, but yeah. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Before we get into that, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Haystack. Well, actually, you know what? We'll do that later on. We'll come back to that because I want to do it when there's more people on. And you know, I think we're just going to go right to the charts. I just don't have a lot to say as a preamble, and we don't have a huge number of chats here, so let's just go right to that. Yeah, it's funny they said, what does a hostile takeover of block of a blockchain look like? Well, we can see what happens when a blockchain fails, and that was the video we made this week. Cadena. I've been calling it Cadena. The organization running it, I don't know if it's a foundation exactly, announced they were shutting down, and the coin just tanked. And we can look at that. We can look at that as we look through our markets, because actually things are looking kind of green. Oh, we're gonna do this one, and in fact, I'm gonna. Oops, sorry. I should just create a separate scene with it on both sides. That would be easier. We got Bitcoin. In fact, I wonder if we did this one. No, we'll do this one. Yeah, we got Bitcoin sitting at 110,500, and it is all green on the 7-day, 24-hour, and 1 hour, which is kind of nice to see. By the way, my dog might need to come in. She always waits till I go live or till I start recording every time. I've been sitting here all morning working, and finally, right as I hit start streaming, she wants to go out. That's just the way it works. Life with dogs, right? I love her to death, though. Yeah, so in the last 7 days, we've got Bitcoin up 7%. I definitely bought some dips on that, by the way. I've been seeing anything under 110 right now is looking pretty good. You could also take a little profit if you wanted. I'm just gonna buy and hold on Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'm gonna talk about what I'm doing with Algorand. I'm still kind of deciding, but I have some ideas around that, so we're gonna look at that. But BNB chain, $1,112, and this is outperformed Bitcoin in recent years. It's very interesting. As Scott Mulker from Wolf of Wall Street has pointed out, this coin actually has a utility. There's reason to hold it. It gives you extra value on the Binance chain. Big news around Binance, by the way. We'll probably cover that today too. CZ pardoned by Trump. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that. XRP up 10% on the week. That's good to see. I've definitely taken some profit on XRP in the past. Blue Algo says crime pays. The thing about that, I do want to address that. Well, we'll get to that when it comes up. I think, first off, okay, I'm not going to dive into it right now. We'll dive into that a little bit later. I think we will cover that because I think there's some really important things to talk about there. Solana up a little bit. We're looking at, not quite on the 24-hour, but on the week. Hyperliquid actually falling a little bit, but had a nice week at almost 14%. Chainlink on its way up. A lot of stuff. Pretty much everything is. You're not seeing a lot of counter movers. Have you noticed that? Just going through Hedera down a little bit lower than I would like, but it's important to remember where your basis is. My basis is around 5 cents with Hedera, so I'm up. It's just a matter of will it go up more, basically. And now staking went back to 2.5%. We might talk about that on the Hedera segment. Not as good as Algorand staking, obviously, but it's not nothing for just holding the coin. But yeah, I definitely with the price action though, it kind of makes it kind of worthwhile in some ways. Who did really? Let's just see who did really well in the 24-hour here. Virtuals Protocol, MYX Finance. It seems to be one that does really well. The World Liberty Financial, Zcash, Jupiter, Pump.Fund. Pump.Fund always does. And then XRP is up there. I'm just looking for ones that I actually care about. And there's not many. There's not many that did well in the 24-hour that I care about. How about the 7-day? Still virtuals. You got Hyperliquid up there. We got, let's see. Yeah, same. XDC, I'm sure Bobby Jonas is really happy. I don't know if he's in there. Laurent Schroeder saying, hi there, many thanks for your helpful content. Is Algorand in danger? We're gonna dive into all that. We will definitely be diving into all that. I have concerns. We'll just put it that way. Yeah, Chainlink doing pretty good on the week, like we said. But nothing really surprising. Oh, it's a nice little bump for Ondo, but Ondo, I'm still way under on Ondo. Yeah, even Polygon not doing too bad. I'm so far under on Polygon. So far under on Polygon. It's not even funny. A little concerned. I don't see Algorand. How far down is it? It's way down here. It's actually at 18.27 cents. It fell a little bit, starting to come back up. We'll dive deeper into that, but actually near is up a little bit on the week, but yeah, the best one of like the utility coins on the week is Chainlink. And I've been a big fan of Chainlink. I've been trying to make more content on it because I think it's a great project and it actually has revenue, unlike certain other chains that we will get into. I'm gonna guess we are nowhere near market top, but let's see. Well, I might have to search for it. Indicators. The market cycle indicators, I still don't know how to find it on their site. I can search for it, but I can't find it. Let's see. Is anything triggered? It is not. So still got absolutely zero market top indicators triggered, which should not surprise anybody. Give me a second. Gotta let the dog in, like I mentioned. Green Blue Algo says, I think if Algorand spins the move to a DAO correctly, it could be insanely bullish. I would love a candid discussion with Jaws. I would love one too. And we talked about it well over a month ago. And I keep getting an update that, yeah, it's probably gonna happen. And then it doesn't. So I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty frustrating. I have to tell you, I do enjoy doing the interviews, but they're so hard to schedule. They're so hard to schedule. Bloopity bloop 6076 says, "Sup BC, what is going on? Good to have you here. Appreciate that." And just a reminder, we are on YouTube and Kick and X. So we can definitely take comments from all those places. They should all show up in my chat window here on OBS. So thanks everyone for joining us. We are currently looking at crypto market cycle indicators, which I kind of scrolled down. As you can see, nothing is even close to triggering. So we're nowhere near the top. But we'll see how things actually go. We started to hear some talk that we're in a 5-year cycle now instead of a 4-year, which kind of makes sense because things seem really extended. They've been extending actually every cycle. And so it makes a lot of sense. But let's get to... Let's go to the Explore tab here and let's see how that's showing up. Actually might be easier. I'm going to move this back. Oops. Move this over so we can see. And we got, well, let's see where we're at before we do anything else. Let's just see where we're at with Algorand. We're going to put our Bollinger Bands. And, we're just kind of in no man's land, not really at the bottom. We did hit that bottom of the Bollinger Band. We have not really in oversold territory yet, but we're kind of on the low end, which surprises me considering. So we could be like in the middle of a pump back up, which would be nice. I think a lot of people would like that. Captain Striker says, "Hi guys, we need to turn our thoughts to a post-foundation network and what that looks like. A DAO or counter-foundation movement needs to begin organizing." Yeah, I'm starting to get that sentiment, and that's definitely something that we're going to talk about when we get to this segment, because I went on a Twitter, I got called up on an X space with Zach Humphreys. I don't know if you guys know him. He's he's got like about 200K subscribers on YouTube, pretty big X account as well. And he's a pretty sharp dude. We've been talking a lot of stuff. And I went on and I asked their opinion. So we're going to share that as well as, what we've been seeing. Green Blue Algo says, if Trump pardoned Sam Bankman-Fried, it might be better in exchange for dirt on Gensler and Warren and Waters. Sub-Captain, agree. Totally, yeah. I think that's probably not going to happen just because Sam Bankman-Fried, at least publicly, really supported a lot of Democrat politicians. I know he was kind of playing both sides and, probably doing it pretty smartly, be open about the left because the left that was currently, within the zeitgeist of the Overton window of what's acceptable. And he was also funding Republican politicians in a much more quiet manner. But I don't see Trump pardoning him, to be honest. Now, Warren, we're gonna get that. We'll get to that with the CZ thing, but I think she may be in some trouble. If CZ wanted, I think she could be in some trouble. We'll dive into that, but right now, I just want to stick with Algorand here, and we will get to that, all those segments coming up. And that's on the 1 day. Actually, I should go to. I always forget they've defaulted to the 1 day instead of the 4 hour. But yeah, not much different. Sitting right in the middle of the Bollinger Bands, right in the middle of RSI. Really kind of in that no man's land of not overbought, not oversold. You see what happens. Boy, we had a real flash crash there. Did you see that? You know, I didn't even pick up on that. We were way oversold. And that's what happens. You get to pump up off of that. And I got to say, I bought right around here. It might have been this one, actually. I think it was this one. Yeah, it was. Sorry, I don't want to misstate it. It was right around here where I bought a little bit and added it to my staking thing. So Campbell 9439 says, what do you think HBarn algo can hit this cycle if we have an alt season? Well, that's a big if. I think we're going to, and I don't know. I think predictions are kind of out the window at this point. I'm already up like 3x right now. I've been up as high as 4x on HBAR because my average buy is 5 cents. According to Coinbase, my average buy is 18 cents on Algorand, which probably sounds about right. So I'm up right now. I'm up a little bit, a teeny tiny bit, not by much, but I think well, we'll get to that. But let's see what else is doing well on Algorand. I want to go through some of this other stuff because Alpha Arcade had a nice little turnaround. Now, they just had a sale, so when they do a sale, it tends to bring the price down, as they explained. And Haystack really had a nice turnaround, sitting at 14% on the day and almost 10% on the 1 hour, which is pretty good. 11% overall. Very nice to see. Everyday Algonaut in the chat saying, GM, what is up? Everyday Algonaut, good to see you here. Let's take a look just to be nice. Actually, I don't even see where that is. By the way, you know, I just found this, and I got to tell you, I find the guy behind this absolutely insufferable. I was in a space with him yesterday, and it was pretty annoying. But he's trying this experiment, and this coin that he's taking with a very, very tiny limited supply has really kind of taken off. That's a really interesting chart. So I don't know what to make of that. Interesting thing. Like I said, I find the guy kind of insufferable. But if it works, right? And then Liquid Hog is coming back. Now, Liquid Hog is an interesting project because it's basically, this is the coin behind like a trading bot, and it fell. Oh, it really fell though. That's the 1 day. Let's see what, let's go on the 4 hour just to see here. I mean, that's quite a rundown, and then it's just popping back up a little bit recently. So I don't know what to exactly make of that. Even Stacy been selling's coming back out. So a lot of the coins are coming back except for Coop. Oops. And Munko not doing so great. But pretty much everything else is coming back. Even Opulus, and I can't stand Opulus, actually down 2%. I would rather see Coop doing better than Opulus. I don't think it's cool when a coin, when a project launches on Algorand, uses its resources, and then abandons the chain. Focoin doing okay at 2.5% on the week and a little bit up on the 24 hours, so that's fine. But Alpha is still one of my favorites because you get paid in USDC from the fees that come from people using the chain, which is people using the Alpha Arcade project, the prediction market. And it's kind of fun. I actually had a little experiment I was going to try where I put $1 into each each market bet that's winning and see what that did. Maybe I'll just do it as an experiment. Green Blue says, Algo is the only one I have zero clue about cost basis. Technically reset every governance period with G Algo. Looking forward to my folks drop. Yeah, and I gotta tell you too, that's like what I was pointing out. That's what Coinbase says, and I don't really know if it's true. There's so much stuff I've done with with Algorand. That's my like best estimate based on what it's saying, because I do buy most of my Algorand through I buy it through the Coinbase, but you know, I've been staking, so I'm getting that way. I was getting a bunch of Algorand through staking or liquid staking, not liquid staking. What am I talking about? DeFi rewards back when that was a thing. And by the way, I did way better under DeFi rewards than I am now with staking rewards. It was actually insane how much I was making at one point. During that November, December run up, I was making almost $15 a day in rewards off of like, you know, what, around 10K, a little bit more, 10K. You know, that's like if I had stayed, I would have been making enough to basically pay off my, you know, pay my mortgage every month, or, you know, pay some serious bills. So anyway, we're going to go on to Salt. Looking forward to my folks drop, Green Blue says. Yeah, I guess I will be getting some folks, probably not very much compared to everyone else. These tokens are up too, mostly. I got Sauce up 1.63%. I got to tell you, I was on the Saucer Swap app and I put in, I staked my Sauce and I can't figure out how to get rewards. It doesn't exist on my platform. It's very strange. You know, there's a thing that says get rewards. It's blanked out. I don't really understand it. Do I have to wait a certain amount of time? I don't know. It's not very well explained. Pack is my HBAR wallet of choice, and I've been enjoying that one, so that's cool. Nice to see the Pack token going up a little bit. Gib, I don't know much about, but it seems to do well. Just looking for anything else. Steam, interesting. Tune FM. HBAR Suite doing pretty good at 3.36%. Karate, not so much, down 1.53. Same with Dovu, down just a little bit. These are all 24-hour, by the way. Like I said, not as robust as Vestige on Algorand. I'd like to see something that looked a little more like that, but that's our Hedera coins. Let's see. So I've been ticking people off this week. Yeah, we're gonna start with that. Okay, so we're gonna get to the foundation world chess news, because I think it's like crazy. I think it's ridiculous. And there's been a lot of conversation since I dropped my initial video, which went huge, by the way. It was huge. So we're going to talk about this Algorand Foundation World Chess News. So first off, let's start with the original. Do I have the original here? Let me find that. Okay, here it is. So let's start here. And, you know, you guys can weigh in as you want. You know how I do my segments. We're just going to weigh in. All right, so this is Trillion. He said, this is not a great deal at all. World Chess gets a player management system built for free by the Algorand Foundation devs using cutting-edge, best-in-class blockchain technology. Agree. That clearly not being interesting enough, Algorand Foundation are making it more exciting by paying them $700,000 a year for the privilege. That's a lot. As a final kick in the nuts, how is this being paid for? By raiding the finite cookie jar of consensus rewards, bringing a significant number of Algorand Foundation Algo online, and thereby reducing the return to thousands of AlgoFam node runners that make Algorand secure and decentralized. Now, some people have disputed this part. No one's disputing this, other than they think it's a good deal. I don't think it is, but we'll get to that. In return, a bit of obscure brand visibility and a case study. What other guarantees were secured as part of this deal? I think this is insane. I said it back then. I said it back in that video earlier this week. I'm saying it now. This is insane. This doesn't make any sense. And the way I liken this to is someone brought up Uber. One of the I don't remember if it was in my comments or on Twitter or somewhere else. Someone brought up Uber and said, "Hey, you give." Well, it might have been D13. We got some commentary from him that we're gonna talk about. Someone said, "Oh, well, Uber had to like lose money." Everyday Algonaut says, "I see you opted in to vote now. I sent you some tip." I appreciate that, Everyday Algonaut. I appreciate that a lot. Captain Striker said 60K a month. I imagine you could hire some decent dev talent for that money. Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of stuff you could do with that money besides paying people to use your product. And I'll share my experience. I went on the Crypto Breakfast Club this morning. You can see them up. They're still talking. I went on their thing and I went on their chat and we had a little discussion about it because I wanted to get like an outsider's opinion and say, hey, what do you guys think about this? And it was kind of mixed. So we'll dive into that a little bit later in the segment. Trillion says, when you make one-sided deals like this with no financial commitment or any other quantifiable one, it seems from one party they did not value it and will be quick to move on when someone comes up with a bigger number, especially when their own numbers are splat. we'll just say, and, I think there's something to that. I think there's something to both parties in a deal need to have some skin in the game. So the point that someone made is like, well, Uber was like losing rides early on, or losing money on rides to build adoption. I'm like, that's fine, but they didn't pay people to ride in their cars. That would be crazy. You might, your 0 to 1 might be that, maybe like your first 100 customers, like maybe you almost have to pay them, but I don't know. Algorand has been operating for a long time, and what I'm concerned about is this seems to be a bigger trend where we have people who just aren't that bought into blockchain technology, or these industries aren't bought in. We had TravelX, and TravelX just once they started getting, they were minting NFT airline tickets as NFTs, seemed like a great project. And then when they started to get to the bigger airlines were, well, we don't want that. We want this from you instead. And so they pivoted away from the blockchain. They're not using Algorand. And people were like, well, they're not using any blockchain. I'm like, that's not good. Do you think that's good? That's not good. It'd actually be better. It'd be better if they went to another chain. That meant the foundation could just do something a little different maybe. But actually going, just abandoning the chain altogether is bad. And then you have Silvio Macaulay with the fiat chain. Seems like he doesn't necessarily believe in Algorand as a layer 1 either. He thinks there needs to be this intermediary layer with traditional companies, which makes me think maybe people just don't, maybe industry isn't the place for this. Maybe there's something else. Maybe it's a whole new ecosystem. Green Blue Algo says period 2 was about phasing out the foundation. He says communication from the Algo Foundation is important. Let's say the European Digital ID project is built on Algorand using this test case, then 700K makes sense. Isn't getting your backend infrastructure for free, isn't that enough? I mean, good God. And we already talked about structured selling. And now this, I just find this really disturbing. Well, okay, so here's what Mark had to say. So that Mark is the Vandelenberg. He's the CMO of Algorand, Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer. So he does have strategy in his title, by the way, too. So this is the reason he's weighing in on this, I think, is because this is his strategy. He says, some folks have expressed concern over the way the World Chess Partnership is structured. So let me give you some context. World Chess has been a longtime partner of Algorand. That is not better, by the way. If you already have this long-term partnership, why do you have to pay them more to give them more value? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's great that they've been recording them on chain, and I think it's a good idea. Like, I don't have a problem with the idea itself. I just have an idea with the fact that you have to pay them. Okay, let's go on. The impact of this partnership is meaningful. World Chess represents 11% of transactions on Algorand. Again, that was already happening because they were already using Algorand. So why do you have to give them money? And I know it's not like, one point that Zach Humphreys made that I think was good is that, well, it's not like they're handing them the money exactly. They're just giving them staking rewards. More importantly, believe that when enterprises adopt blockchains at scale, they ought to make staking part of their operations. Okay, fine, but you're giving them this. They're not doing that, though. More enterprises rely on our blockchain, the more responsibility they have to uphold its security. Do they, though? I mean, this is like the Hedera playbook, is that you have these governing council members that do that, but I don't know why that he's stating this as if it's axiomatic. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's the case. I think their idea is to use it, right? Their point is to like make use of it. I think the community can stake it. I don't know that I fundamentally agree with this, if I'm being honest. And I kind of skipped over that when I read it before because I was focused on the other part. But all right, for operational risk management reasons, we'll be handling the staking on behalf of World Chess. Okay, so they're not doing it then. So you believe that these companies should be staking, but then they're not doing that. You're doing it anyway. So what's the point? But they get to keep the staking rewards. Like, I don't care if the foundation isn't claiming it because it's getting used. And then the foundation will continue to look for creative opportunities to structure marketing partnerships. Is this a marketing partnership? Because if this is a marketing partnership, this is the point I made before. Like, I totally get paying like the UFC to be a partner because you're sponsoring their event and then you're getting exposure to their audience. But there's a logo right in the ring. I think they might have some read too at some point. I'm not sure. But there's a big logo right in the ring where VeChain is like everywhere. And it's on an event where a lot of like crypto people are going to be. But this is like, I just don't see people playing chess and being like, ooh, cool, Algorand. Yeah, that sounds good. And, you know, we've had a lot of these. We've Algorand sponsored that sailboat race. I'm like, the sailboat team. I'm like, who cares about sailboating? I mean, what are crypto people? Is the crypto audience watching sailboating? No, they are not. No, they are not. The drone racing was like a ton of money for. I mean, I think it's kind of cool, but I don't have anything against sailing either. I just don't think it's the right market. So I'm very frustrated by this. I'll be honest. I just think this is ridiculous. They talked about, yeah, at some point he talked about the transactions too, I thought. They said 11%. Governor Hat says, give me 700,000, I'll generate even more transactions. And Madan says, on point 4, let me get this straight. An org that sees the value proposition of Algorand couldn't be bothered with running an Algorand node and had to be paid from that node that they're not running. Talk about no skin in the game. Exactly. They couldn't have set up a ready node where Algorand Foundation keeps the money and they keep the rewards. I mean, that actually, I probably think that would have been better. Maybe that could have gone to help fund operations. Foundation may not directly claim staking rewards, yet retaining custody of principal and executing staking on behalf of partners does create indirect benefit. Yeah, fair enough. Also a fair point. I think a lot of people made some actual fair points. Control out DeFi, friend of the channel, says 11% transactions is a meaningful number. People forget that higher the transactions equal higher staking rewards. Yeah, but I don't know about that. I just don't know that I thought your previous post was bad. People are not liking this. Yeah, here's our. I was on this post, by the way. I was on that space, I should say. Yeah. Well, we're getting the idea. I want to go through some of the other pushbacks that we've got. So here's Governor Hat. So it gets worse, by the way. It gets worse. Over 4 years ago, World Chess was given 33 million algo by Algorand Inc. And think of all the transactions I could have paid for if they believed in the dang token and didn't sell it. Yeah, and actually couldn't. So they were given tokens, right? They were actually given actual Algorand, but they don't want anything to do with the tech. Think of all the revenue it could have generated now if they staked it. Yeah, that's a good point too. They could have staked it. Now, back in the day, that wouldn't have done anything, but now it would have. So, but he doesn't point out something that's very important here. And let me just change screens here so we can see it a little bit. It's a little bit, hold on a second. It's a little bit cut off, but in exchange for providing collateral for a loan in World Chess Events Limited. The company granted an option to Algorand Cayman SCZC to convert part or all the collateral into ordinary shares. The option was exercised in January 2021, and World Chess issued 2,474 shares to Algorand Cayman SCCZ for total consideration of 33 million algos. So Algorand Inc. has shares. Now, I don't know if they kept those shares, but I didn't see anyone saying they didn't. Inc. actually owns part of World Chess, and the foundation just is paying them staking rewards, money out of staking rewards. This is what we're getting. What do you guys think about this? I mean, doesn't it seem like, now, connecting the dots here, this looks pretty shady. This looks pretty shady. I think there's definitely some reason to be concerned here. Oops, this is the full. I said, so wait, so Algorand Inc. uses treasury to buy shares in World Chess, the plot thickens. Okay, so I'm going to get to the main criticism here, and then I think we'll be able to move on to other stuff. So this is D13. Now, I'm a fan of D13, generally speaking. I think he does good work. I think he's a good developer. I don't agree with him here, so let's just go through. Let me get a little drink, and then we're going to go through this. The accusation that this is diluting rewards is just false, no matter how confident you sound. Making it the total supply is unchanged. Okay, that's not the issue. No one said this total supply was unchanged. This is existing stake that is now incentive eligible. Well, that means they're drawing incentives. The total supply over the past 30 days has slightly decreased from there to there, 1.95 billion to 1.92 billion. You could argue that this reduces the lifetime of block subsidies, but per staking FAQ, the foundation is committed based on time, 24 months. I don't think this is a guarantee. And look at this, it says around 24 months. He didn't say exactly 24 months. He said around 24 months. What does that mean? That means this isn't the determining factor. This is an estimate, probably based on the total amount of Algorand. Actually, how can it be that much, by the way? Isn't way more than that in circulation? Maybe I'm misunderstanding that. You could argue compounding interest, but all healthy participating accounts grow at some rate. I don't know what that is. Time and again, this community graduates valid concerns or criticisms to absurd heights. I don't think this is absurd to be. What will we get out of it? Only a this is the part I really disagree with here. What will we get out of it? Only a decentralized identity platform pilot with mainstream potential that is built on Algorand. Oh my God. Plus an open source stack for others to come and build the same. Is this honestly not worth trying? And are you really surprised that this partnership required payment? Yeah, actually I am. I'm 100% surprised that you're providing something for somebody. You're giving them something that's supposed to be super beneficial. This thing is so great. Why do we have to pay people to use it? Yeah, I do. I am very surprised. I'm very, very surprised. Finally, this post wasn't instructed, coached, reviewed by Algorand Foundation anyway, and that's fine. That's fine. I'm also a community member. I'd be posting the same thing if I wasn't employed. But I'm locking replies. Feel free to quote and continue the toxic spiral. I don't think it's toxic. I think we're calling out something that looks ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm sorry. And to say like, are you really surprised that this partnership required payment? Yeah, what's the partnership? That's a giveaway. That's not a partnership. What's the partnership? What does Algorand get? You get a pilot? Big deal. Big deal. That's just insane. I don't know what to say about that. So I was wondering, I'm like, am I off base here? Am I crazy? So I went to the and I can't share a clip. Actually, maybe I could. Well, it's going to be long. You can go find it. It was on today's Breakfast Club with Zach Humphreys. So you can go to Zach Humphreys. You can go see it. I think it's insane. So I asked them, hey guys, what do you think about this? Am I crazy? And Zach basically said, one guy kind of defended it. He said, well, it's getting Algorand in front of a bunch of people. I said, well, first they used like the 600 not million. They said, oh, 600 million people. That's why. Well, that's like the worldwide population of chess players. The actual platform has about 1 million people. So we're paying about, the foundation is paying about almost $1, like maybe 70 cents per year per player to advertise to them. That seems really high. That seems like a lot. And I asked Zach, and he's like, well, I understand the project, and that project makes a lot of sense. It does seem crazy to pay them to use, you're basically providing them a service, and then you're paying them to have that service. And I think that's, he thought that was a little bit crazy sounding too. Purple Rain says, I asked ChatGPT, and it says depends on how much revenue. Well, there really isn't. I guess there'd be some from the transactions, but that's like crazy. That wouldn't be nearly enough. The price of Algo 2 years ago was above $1, so that means Algorand Inc. has swapped Algorand tokens to Chess Association worth at 33 million. Well, it's 33 million Algo, so whatever it was at the time, you might be right. It was probably more than 33 million. Or 4 years ago? Yeah. Yeah, it was 4 years ago. You're right. I mean, they're probably making something on the increase in transact, but there wasn't an increase because they were already, I mean, there might be. World Chess was already using Algorand to mint on there. So it probably brings some new transactions, but I would have a hard time believing that it would bring enough transactions to make up for the 700,000 that they're getting from staking. Now, Zach brought up a good point. He said, well, if it's from Algo that they already had and they're holding the principal and they're giving them these staking rewards, like that's like maybe not as bad as if they just handed it to them. And I do understand that. I think from a financial perspective, that makes a little more sense, but also I just very concerned if we have these such great solutions that everybody's going to adopt them, and we have to actually pay somebody to use it. If a thing is so great, people will pick it up. If a product is great, that's usually its best marketing. You do have to tell people about stuff, but if something is so useful that people just got to have it, it usually kind of sells itself. So I think I covered everything I want to with that, and so we'll probably move on to something else in a minute. We got some Hedera news yet, but whew. But yeah, that's a very good point, Everyday Algonaut, and I do appreciate the tip. In fact, since you're down there, I'm just curious. I just want to see the transaction. All right, 200 vote coin. Cool. Appreciate that, brother. Yeah, I just went on a rant. We are going to get to some, before we go, we'll get to some, Hedera news. We got that coming too. I just want to double check. Cool. Mr. Coolin, regardless of the tech, bad management will sink the boat. Yeah, so, if someone brought up, like, well, what's the next step? What is the next step for Algorand? What is it? Does it work as a DAO? And I think that might be happening because, we saw what happened with Kadena. Not good. The organization behind Kadena left, and then that was it. The coin just sank. But we can look at that. Let me pull that up. I think we should focus on the future. Let's hope the chess guys will marketize Algorand heavily so that it pays off. Well, I mean, they really haven't. It's actually not down as much as you might think. Let me move this chart over. I mean, honestly, I would expect that to be way worse. If it was around here that they announced it, but it's like, read Algorand governance period 2 and what 90% of us voted for. Let's take a look. period to vote. The Algorand Foundation is committed to a fully decentralized, actually, I'm going to go here. Algorand Foundation is committed to a fully decentralized Algorand ecosystem. Believe that governance structure that allows Algorand community to impact the most important economic, technical, and policy decisions is fundamental to the long-term stability and continued growth of the Algorand ecosystem. What do people say? Creating a tier of expert governors? Yeah. Well, they totally undid this. Creation of a new DAO-based tier of governance, XGov, with the power to formulate, evaluate, and propose measures to be put to a vote. Yeah, well, I mean, that doesn't have to do with what they did. This is about, giving the ability to... It was actually a total disaster, by the way. I mean, do you guys remember this? It was a total disaster. The whole idea was, like, you were supposed to be able to vote on proposals, and it was basically like a get rich quick scheme for people, because people could like stack the votes. Basically, it just didn't work, and a lot of people pointed out that this was a complete disaster. So, but that didn't have anything to do with like how Algorand, the foundation, spends its treasury. Totally different from that, and frustrating, to be honest. Really frustrating. I'll be honest. I'm probably burning my bridges with Algorand, but I think this stuff needs to be pointed out, and I'm not gonna stay silent. I didn't even like. By the way, maybe a good time, maybe not, to give a big shout out to our sponsors, Haystack. Let's pull up Haystack here. Let's pull up a little Haystack. Haystack is the trading platform that makes trading on Algorand so much easier than all the other platforms. You can get it on the App Store and the Google Play Store. And by the way, you can get they have incentives too. They have an affiliate program. So I don't know if we would call it an affiliate, just like a referral program, I would say. And you can actually use it in the. You can use it right in the browser as well, but they really want you to do it. They really like you to do it on the app. And some analytics. They got analytics from Nansen. There's a leaderboard of who's all using this thing. Referrals too. Some people have like 70. How does people have that many referrals? By the way, y'all gotta help me out a little bit here, because I'm not even on the leaderboard here. I don't think I even show up. So anyway, if you want that app, go check it out. It's really fun. You can get it right in my description, which I finally saved. I forgot to hit the save button on that, which is probably going to help have some stuff come over, have some more people come over. By the way, 28 people. What are we looking at for? Oops. I just want to pull up what we're at here. And we are at... Oh, what are we looking... 6 likes. Hey, we can get a lot more likes than that, right? Let's hit the like button and get it up there. Meanwhile, I want to see who the top fans are. We got Green Blue Algo at the top, followed by Everyday Algonaut, and then followed by Captain Striker. So if you guys want to be at the top of the leaderboard, you can also do super chats. I know Everyday Algonaut. You can send you can be like Everyday Algonaut and send crypto to my address, frugalbc.algo. Always works. And I also want to talk about our other sponsor, Marcus Aurelius. And Marcus is building the little Stoic army, spreading the word of Stoicism through Algorand's, through the Marcus coin on the Algorand blockchain, which is pretty cool. I like that they keep building. They're always building stuff, doing cool stuff on the blockchain. I like it. So definitely give a big shout out to our sponsors, Marcus Aurelius, and to the Haystack app. You know who's behind the Haystack app? It's the non-fungible domains people, which was pretty cool too. I mean, I got one of those too. And you should check that out as well. Anyway. Hey, Ycat, what is up? What is going on? I would tell people who you are, but I don't want to give it away. But thanks for tuning in. You got a nice little audience here. Definitely my cutest, best looking viewer. No offense to everyone else. Well, we're gonna go in a little more positive direction now. We're gonna head to some Hedera news. And you know how I roll with these. When I do my segments, I don't respond to chat unless it's relevant to what we're talking about. So we will do that. But let's see here. Gonna get a little drink before we start our segment. So you guys know I've been covering Hedera for a while, and some really great stuff happening on the chain in September. Thanks to the Hedera Foundation, we got a nice little recap of everything that happened last month as we go into almost done with October, actually. So interesting that they're putting this out now, but I'm going to take a look at what Hedera has been up to. This is right from the Hedera Foundation. Like I said, news moves fast in crypto. Everything moves faster in Hedera. In case you missed it, September was a month of industry first for DeFi and RWAs on the network. Let's see, last month we had 2 industry firsts with Archax, the launch of pool tokens, unlocking on-chain multi-asset portfolios, enabling institutional investors with new ways to build, transfer, and manage diversified baskets of assets. I meant to say they said of asset. It should have said assets. And LBG Place and Aberdeen used Hedera-based RWA as collateral for foreign exchange through Archax, signaling institutional finance moving from pilots to production on public blockchain infrastructure. I'm always worried about playing these clips, by the way, because they always have music, and that gets me in trouble with the ad reads and all that. Following the RWA developments, Swarm Markets launched DeFi-compatible tokenized stocks like Apple and Tesla on Hedera. And, you know, I've been focusing on Ondo doing this a lot, but it's cool to see Hedera doing this as well. I got some news around RWA and Hedera to share a little bit later as well. RWA being real-world assets, so stuff like, in this case, you know, we're talking about stocks, but then also that can mean like real estate. We've covered some of that stuff. And you can just put those on chain. It makes it a lot easier to trade them, to earn yield from them, that sort of thing. To increase access for users to explore these developments, we led the launch of Stargate Finance on Hedera, enabling canonical wrapped ETH to be transferred between Hedera and 40 other connected chains. So always nice to have those interoperability options. Speaking of complementing these efforts, Hashport Network, the native Hedera bridge, launched its HBAR faucet, giving users a small HBAR balance to cover initial fees so that they can explore DeFi on Hedera. By the way, we were supposed to have Hashport on this week. A little bit of a scheduling snafu on their end, so we had to cancel at the last minute. Hopefully bring them back on at some point. That was going to be my first Hedera interview, so I was a little disappointed, to be honest, but it happens. Saucer Swap Labs, the leading DEX on Hedera, followed up with breakout Q3 numbers. And we covered this. You know, we actually talked about this on an earlier video. Trading volume climbed 88% to 974 million, while TVL grew 67% to 99 million. And active users increased 23% quarter over quarter, reaching 9,858. I gotta say, I like some of the DeFi stuff they have on there. I'm very confused by this sauce staking because I staked it and I don't know what happened to it. I'm a little concerned about that. I didn't have like a ton, but still. Moving away from DeFi, Dead Pixels Club demonstrated novel NFT mechanics through its Forever Mint mechanism, driving 57,194% trading volume increase, surpassing many other mainstream NFT projects. And I don't know if you've seen this. I think these are kind of cool. They're just cute. They're very cute. I like them. Here's a little example of some of the pixels there. Kind of neat little thing, I think. Meanwhile, AEL launched its digital underground social fi platform on Hedera, blending web punk aesthetics with an innovative new social experience. So that sounds is that the one I looked at and I was like, I still don't know what this is. I think that might be the one where I'm still very confused on what it actually is. Oh, and we covered this too. HBAR and SWE available on Robinhood Legend. So Robinhood adding HBAR and SWE, still haven't added Algorand, which, I was a little torqued about before. It's a lot of cool stuff. Even Deb Pixel saying thanks for the shout out. You can mint some random ghosts. I wonder what they cost. Let's see what this is gonna. They were pretty expensive before. So remember, Hedera is about 16 cents right now, and yeah, it's 22.50. So that's still kind of expensive. I don't want to do public math, but that's still a lot. That's a few $100s. I like them, but I don't know if I like them that much. And that is not all. USDC liquidity is really important. Stablecoin liquidity is really important for blockchains, and we see Hedera's USDC is now live on BitCub Official, bringing access to 5 million plus users across Thailand. So adding a little bit of liquidity there for USDC on Hedera, always good to see. What else we got here? That's not it. So this is from Santiment. I like this. I'm still not following them. I should follow them for sure. Here are crypto's top real-world assets by development. Directional indicators represent each project's ranking rise or fall in the last month. Chainlink number 1, and you guys know I cover Chainlink a lot. Nice to see that, but Hedera at number 2. And it's got the little up symbol, so it must have moved up compared to before. Good to see that. Yeah, I like to see Hedera up there. And this is, let's see, how is this? It says, well, they pull GitHub activity data from project repositories and why it's so useful. I'll talk a little bit more about why it's useful for crypto trading. I just think it's good to know what's going on in the ecosystem. I don't see Algorand here, so that's something to take note of. Hedera here at number 2. That's really nice to see. I'm starting to think maybe I put more money on Hedera. I'm starting to think that's where I'm going. We'll see. And by the way, staking is at 2.5%. Actually, I think that is on my... It's actually not, I don't have that pulled up, but staking is at now 2.5%. So you can earn staking when you're holding your Hedera and staking it to a node. And I thought this was pretty cool. I think this is worth talking about. Hedera is proud to take part in the Bank of England MBIS org DLT Innovation Challenge, exploring how central bank money could be transacted on external programmable ledgers. Hedera looks forward to contributing insights on the role of DLT in the future of the financial infrastructure. I put stuff like this. I kind of put stuff like this on the boring but important. And what do I mean by that? It's like the stuff that like no one gets excited about. Ooh, Bank of England, finance, behind the scenes finances. But hey, they're in this challenge, and having the Bank of England working with Hedera could be a pretty big deal, I think. By the way, I like that hat. Someone want to send me a hat like that? I'd wear it on the show for sure. I definitely would. I think I already talked about this. Let's see. Oh, this is from Bonzo Finance Labs. By the way, I like that name, Bonzo. Bonzo Finance. I want to follow Bonzo Finance. They seem fun. The Hedera ecosystem asset prices on CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap are not functioning properly. This is believed to be related to a Hedera codebase update 2+ weeks ago. Ecosystem teams are working to remediate it. For accurate prices, please see Saucer Swap Labs. So if you were on Bonzo Finance Labs and you're worried about the asset prices, I definitely want to go to Saucer Swap Labs. That might be a good place to go actually for our crypto updates too. And we've lowered Saucer Swap interface fees from 0.4% to This is Saucer Swap Labs. And I think it's the last thing we want to kind of cap off with here is that we've lowered the Saucer Swap interface fee from 0.4% to a 37.5% reduction. That's a lot of percentages, but that's like a fee almost cutting off in half. Not quite, a little less than that, maybe a third. That even seems, well, okay. This change applies to the web app. This aligns us, do they mean also? I don't know. This aligns us to the industry standard set by Uniswap Labs at 0.25%. Our goal is to always have the lowest fees while keeping operations sustainable so we can deliver the greatest value to our users. So that's nice to see. Nice when you can get that from before, you know, you can get down a little bit. Crypto Wendy is saying, I'm going to need to come up with a fun catchphrase for you guys like I have with Hashpack. Well, I wonder what her fun catchphrase is for Hashpack. I've seen Crypto Wendy talking a lot about Hedera. Not as much about Algorand. Seen a lot about Hedera, which is very interesting. So that is our Hedera news. We can talk about, oops. We can look at some. Just give me a second. I'm going to pull up Hedera on price. I'm going to go to full screen here so you can see a little more. That's 1 year. Here's a month. Not so good. But even on the week, like I said, we're up 3.72% on the week. If I go to trading view, what's that going to look like? Yeah. Definitely looking like it's heading down. It actually bounced off the, hold on. Let's go to 4 hour. I always like to go on 4 hour, and yeah, kind of like I said, just like we said with Algorand earlier, we're in kind of that mid range. So kind of a bummer, but not much to get excited or depressed about, you know, just kind of in that mid range, sort of no man's land. You can see I just want to point something out here. You can see the community sentiment is pretty high. It is on Algorand too. Interesting, like stuff like Hyperliquid, even when it's pumping, the sentiment is way down. It's really strange. I don't really understand it. It's certainly making me think that it's not much of an indicator at all. Well, anyway, I think that wraps up our Hedera segment. I'm a big fan of it. I've been staking it for a while. I was glad to see that the rewards went back up. I could see my rewards being like nothing, and then all of a sudden like actually earning some Hedera again. So that's nice to see. And I actually need to update my portfolio because I think I have more Hedera than I've been counting. IMJ3688 says, have to say that I got out of my XLM and HBAR earlier this year in profit on a dip and went into Aerodrome in high volume. Might do the same with Algo on any uptick. I'm considering, I don't know about HBAR. I mean, HBAR, I'm up 4x, and I definitely took some profits. I'm in the black on HBAR for sure. I'm definitely in moonbag territory, so I can't lose. But I think everything's going to move up, but I'm a little concerned about Algo. So LMJ says the issue that markets are irrational. They're absolutely, especially in crypto, by the way, they are absolutely irrational. Most people don't care about the best tech. Nope, they don't. Nor have the most people actually tried to move value with Algo. It moves very well. Yeah, it does, totally. So this is one of those separation things where the investment potential and like the actual use are two different things. So I can do a bunch of cool stuff on Algorand. You know, I'm holding gold on Algorand. I'm holding my ETH on Algorand because it's easier to move. It's easier to swap. I don't have to worry about unstaking it or any of that stuff. I don't have to keep it on an exchange. It's just all in my Algorand wallet. And I actually get my sponsors actually pay me through the blockchain. And I'm actually working with someone behind the scenes to develop an invoice system where I can invoice someone on Algorand and for another Algorand address, and they can just pay it that way. It'd be a lot easier because right now I am emailing invoices like a boomer, and I would like to do it through crypto. And I think that's an awesome use case. I think like a lot of the obvious use cases for crypto just gets completely ignored. It's very strange. But like you said, that's totally different than actual, like the best tech does not win. It doesn't. It's all about narratives and what people seem to care about. And if you don't think like that, you have to look at what people get excited about. And what we're seeing that is people get excited about, is my volume up? Sorry about that. Well, people get excited about Solana, they get excited about XRP, and those coins move even if the tech isn't superior. Lauren Shorter says, could there eventually be a bigger purpose behind? Are you talking about the world chess? I mean, I think that's what they would argue, but it seems like a big thing. I just checked into the video, have been flooding the foundation, or have been discussing D3's defense of the foundation. Yeah, but well, I don't believe in flooding. First off, that's a stupid term. It's just a way to dismiss any criticisms without any intellectual rigor. I think it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thing to say. So I think the word FUD is so stupid. But yeah, we did pick apart that defense. We did talk about it. You can rewind the video and watch it if you want. He may be right about the stake, but I still think it's a strange deal. I think the idea that the foundation has to pay somebody just to get a proof of concept, that's ridiculous. But I'm not going to rehash the whole discussion. You can go back and rewind it. That's how it works. Boy, we do have a nice little audience. And looks like a good chunk of it is on YouTube, but not all. And of course, I have a big one. Reporting on the status of a project isn't flooding. It's called due diligence. I agree, IMJ. Absolutely. Yeah, but the word flooding really, it bothers me because it's just a way to dismiss concerns without using any brain power, any intellectual honesty. I think we have to be honest about the stuff. You know, I hold a lot of Algorand, so I have a vested interest in making sure everything is on the up and up. And I'm starting to question that decision a little bit. But like I said, there's a lot of stuff I can do on chain that I really enjoy. So, you know, it's a trade-off. There are two different aspects to it. So maybe I do a lot of work on Algorand, but I don't actually hold that much Algorand. That's what I'm considering. Like, I don't know yet. I'm still thinking through all this because that really bothers me that the foundation would have to pay somebody to provide a service for them. I can't quite get past that unless there's I would want some guarantee. It's like, okay, we'll give it to you free for 2 years, or even we'll allow you to stake it, but you got to start, like, you got to put something in it. You got to give some skin in the game. I just don't see what skin in the game world chess is putting in. Aiden says, it doesn't seem ridiculous to pay for early partnerships. Algo needs to get off the ground first. Then we can expect projects to come to us for a change. We would expect to pay early for early partners. I just don't agree with that. Not when you're providing a service that makes it easier for them. Like providing that for free and saying, hey, we'll just provide this for free for 2 years. Maybe I would buy that because we've had, this isn't the early partnership. We've had FIFA, we've had TravelX, we've had so many of these things that just didn't work. And now, you know, now we're going to be like paying people to have partnerships. I just don't think it's a good idea. Listen, people can agree or disagree. That's up to them. That's just where I stand. I see that. And I think it has to be a quid pro quo. Like I get paying, you know, the way I said it, I get paying like the UFC to sponsor the UFC because you're getting in front of like a huge audience, millions and millions of people, a lot of who are going to be young and male, which is your pretty typical crypto audience. Just maybe that too, but I just don't think Algorand is front and center in the same way. And I don't think it's a bad project, by the way. I think it's a great project. Also, by the way, like it's not like we brought World Chess in with this. They were already a partner. That's a really important thing I think we have to talk about, is that they're not a new partner. We already were partnered. This is just a new thing within that partnership. And I think it's weird that we have to pay for it. Every single coin that boasts a partnership is paid behind the scenes. And I think we all know that, right? Like that's not, by the way, if that's true, and I don't think that's entirely true. I actually went on, you know, again, we're rehashing something I already went through, but we'll keep talking about it. I went to Zach Humphrey's X space and I got called up and I said, hey, am I crazy? Like, is this a normal thing that happens? And everybody was like, I don't know about that. I just think I think that's a huge indictment of the crypto industry. If like if you're providing infrastructure, now let's look at it's not like Chainlink actually brings in revenue. Chainlink provides services to companies and brings in revenue. And some of that service is on chain and some of it's off chain. And then now they're taking that off chain revenue and putting it on chain, which is a huge benefit for holders. So I don't know. It definitely isn't working that way at Chainlink because they actually have revenue coming in. And so what you got to think about, this isn't early. The Algorand's been around for 5 years. This is not early. Okay, at this point, like the foundation is like going to be running out of money soon. KMFA says it's a good way for the foundation to wash some money. Well, you know, that's one of the things we talked about. I don't know what's going on there, but the Algorand Inc., which is different from the foundation, but you know, it's all Algorand. Algorand Inc. owns shares in World Chess, and now the foundation is paying World Chess, which Inc. owns shares in, or at least did. I don't know if they sold them. Maybe they did. We don't know that. We don't know that they still owned it. So we want to be careful what we're saying, but I just think the whole thing sounds fishy. Ian says you're obviously making fair points and none of us want to Algo to pay for partners. I don't see but I don't see it so bad in our early stages here, in my opinion. Algorand needs awareness, however we can get it. Well, I mean, I agree with you. I just think they're making bad choices. I mean, we can all have different opinions. That's fine. We can disagree on whether it's good or not. You know, they sponsored like sailboat racing. They were going to give money away to this bike charity. That was crazy. That was like, we were going to get nothing out of that. And I'm a huge biker myself. Like, so I'm not attacking biking at all. It's not the market. And then drone racing, which was kind of cool. I could see it being that maybe it was a decent choice, but it was expensive as I recall. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just running out of things to say about it. We can agree to disagree. I don't think it's a good look at this point. If we still have to pay people to use our tech. I mean, I say we, but you know, I think it would come out on other ones. I really do. It is, LMJ says it's strange to pay someone to use it is strange to pay someone to use your tech. It is not strange to pay someone to put your banner on their wall at an event. Yeah, it just depends on what the event is though. That's what I'm saying. Like sailboating, that is not our market. I'm sorry. The sailboating class is like just starting to get interested in Bitcoin and Ethereum. I mean, this is one of the things that there was some investment advisors that came on Scott Melker's Wolf of Wall Streets, and they were talking about how like, well, the questions we're getting, these are like 101 questions, and they're all about Bitcoin and Ethereum. So we're not even close to you know, to like people in the sailboat class. Like they're not caring about Algorand. I'll tell you that much. Even more so, I mean, it's the World Chess. It's not Super Bowl. Exactly. If they spent money on a Super Bowl ad, I'd probably be more supportive of that than World Chess. And I like chess, and I think that's a cool organization. I don't have anything against it. I just think it's weird to pay them to provide tech, and I just don't know what we're getting. I don't think we're getting enough in exchange, or Algorand is getting enough in exchange. And it makes me nervous because, you know, the foundation, like they have a pretty high burn rate. Like they're not bringing in much revenue. You know, John Woods on my channel told me it was about 2 million a year, and their burn rate is like many times higher than that. It might be up a little bit from what it was. Oh no. Let's see. Everyday Algorand said it'd be great if World Chess starts marketing Algorand. I just don't think they're going to. I would want to see like, hey, you guys have to do XYZ in terms of marketing. All right, IMJ. Is it IMJ? It's IMJ. It says, I think the most hopeful thing for Algo is this: if 2022 remains relevant, in turn, the government uses and publicly accepts Algorand. Okay, so ISO 20022, that's just a bank messaging standard. It actually has nothing to do with crypto. All that stuff you see about ISO 20022 compliant cryptos, total nonsense. It's a bank messaging syntax, and that will be used. Now, so John Woods did a really good job explaining this. He said like a DApp, that is built on Algorand or another cryptocurrency, would that, if it was a like a banking app, it could use the that syntax, and probably would, of course it would, but it doesn't have anything to do with the underlying cryptocurrency. So focusing on ISO 20022 is a big mistake. And it's something I've talked about before. We've gone through this. I've had, actually Stacy Warden, the CEO of Algorand Foundation, was the first person to bring this to my attention when she interviewed with someone named JT Invests in You. He's not really even making content anymore, I don't think. Had this big long interview, and I was actually talking about ISO 20022. That's the funny thing. I was like one of the biggest, like, yeah, ISO 22, yay. And then someone pointed out that said, hey, what about this? And they pointed to Stacy Warden's interview. And I was like, oh no. It was like one of those, like, but this is everywhere. Everyone's talking about this. Total nonsense. Yeah. So IMJ says, wow, thanks for that info. So basically that is another grassroots analysis catalyst that is a bit empty. Yes and no. So first off, yeah, you have to kind of separate it out, because like Algorand is still pretty well poised for, cross-border payments. Like, it makes a lot of sense. They both, and so is HBAR, by the way. I mean, they both settle fast. They both are very, very quick. They can handle pretty high transaction throughput. So that's very, very good. But it's separate from this issue. I like this idea that once ISO, a lot of people have this idea that once ISO 20022 becomes like mainstream adopted, that all the ISO 20022 compliant cryptos are going to take off. I would not expect that. I wouldn't. If you're waiting for that, I would, I'd be careful. Noah Flood said, did I miss the algo HBAR connection? Well, we have two different, we had an algo segment and we had a HBAR segment. So that you missed. Now we're kind of just talking everyday algo that says ISO 20022 is a set of XLM schemas, how the apps communicate. Algo is not using this type of communication. There could be apps which exports the data from blockchains to these XML messages. Yeah, I think that's a decent explanation. For example, account statements, right? Aiden says, in my view, there are still not any real crypto adoption. Real equal banks, countries using stablecoins for transfers. I just need algo to stay in the top 50 till that adoption comes. And then when that real institutional adoption comes, some of them will use Algorand because Algorand is far superior to, in many ways, to L1 options. We're still so early. Yeah, sometimes you might be, maybe it's just not coming. Have you thought about that? I mean, I think that's the thing I'm most concerned about right now. It's the thing I'm most concerned about right now is we're not seeing that adoption. Crypto's been around for years. And what we're seeing instead, Silvio Macaulay, the founder of Algorand, created Fiat Chain because he didn't believe that institutions want to use the blockchain themselves. Now, it's still kind of unclear how the Fiat Chain would work. And he claims that Algorand and other chains would still benefit from this. So maybe. But I think adoption is going to look very different than what we think, or there's a good chance. If Silvio thinks it, I'm, I'm fairly, I have to give some credence. He's a Turing Award winner. He is the founder of Algorand. He's an MIT, like, cryptocurrency expert, considered the godfather of modern cryptography. Like, yeah, he's the man. And you can watch his interview on Lex Fridman, by the way. So if he's got those concerns, I definitely have those concerns. You know what I mean? I mean, sometimes you got to look at what people smarter than you are saying. Everyday Algorand says in Europe, you can import ISO 20022 account statements to almost every accounting software. Yeah, I mean, it's a bank messaging standard, a syntax that's going to get used. I mean, by the way, it's like not required. It's just people are going to use it because it's the new. You're going to get left. No bank system is not going to use this because you're just going to get left behind. It literally says on the Swift website or the ISO 20022 website, because I looked into this, it says there's no compliance standard. Like, there's nothing to be compliant to. So that's that. Aiden says there's an argument that institutions would rather use a centralized chain or their own chain. And we're starting to see that. Decentralized L1s are superior for humanity and civilization, so they will win. It doesn't mean people will use it. It just doesn't. Yeah, it'd be better for humanity if credit cards didn't charge like 20 some percent interest rate, or if title loans didn't exist, but they exist. Like that's really idealistic. I'm sorry. like it would be nice. Yeah, I mean they are better, but they're not better for the banks. Well, a great example is people thought here's something I thought this is something I changed my mind on. And by the way, you should look for people that are willing to change their mind about stuff. That's who you should trust, really. I thought when I read about NFTs and started learning about NFTs, I thought gaming was like the perfect thing for NFTs, because how great you could buy, I don't know, an Uzi on this game, and maybe I can take it to that game or this other game. DZ, I had DZ from the old BitBoy crypto channel, and if you remember DZ, I had him on, and we started talking about, this gaming thing, and he's like, yeah, why would a company do that? They want you to buy their stuff. They don't want you to be able to import an NFT from another platform. Why would they do that? They don't make anything on that. Why would they want that? And that's kind of what we've seen. So anyway, that's mine. We have to be, it's idealistically, sure, absolutely, Algorand would be winning, and we're not seeing that. You can't think idealistically. You gotta take reality as close to reality, as close to how it is as it is, if that makes sense. INJ says, good info discussion. Can't help but think that a gov crypto will be created that does what XRP does, that does what Algo does, all internally, and these private sector projects fade away. Polymarket is winning because it's better than centralized institutions. Well, they provide, Polymarket works because it's a better product and people want to buy it. People want to use it. I use Alpha Arcade on Algorand. I love it. DeFi is booming because it's clearly better and more accessible than banks. Yeah, the banks are fighting it. It's will it be a better product for the people using it? But that doesn't mean institutions are going to adopt it. That is a very different thing. So that's actually a really good point, because this is kind of where I'm thinking. I'm starting to think like, well, maybe getting institutions to adopt these things isn't the play. Maybe we need more institutions being built up. Like Polymarket wasn't like, a traditional financial institution. It wasn't like a traditional institution that then went, oh, let's adopt crypto. It was a new institution. This is what I think. I don't think adoption happens. I think we see, if it's truly superior, then people will build something new, and that new thing will become the new institution. It's kind of like what we're seeing in journalism. People got sick of being lied to. They got sick of like this narrative enforcing that journalism started to become. So companies like Substack came along and ate their lunch. People were able to build new institutions that are closer to what people want. Now there's problems there too. There always is, but it really hasn't transformed. It hasn't transformed like the New York Times or CNBC or whatever, or CNN. We do see that a little bit with Barry taking over CBS, but that's because she built a new platform, which is exactly what Polymarket is. It's what Alpha Arcade is on Algorand. It's like some of these, Lofty is a good example too. You don't see a traditional real estate firm starting its own tokenized investment platform. You see Lofty starting a company behind Lofty starting a brand new platform. So I think that's actually probably more likely. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's actually something I think is much more likely to happen than institutions going, oh, well, you know what? Let's be a crypto company. I just don't see it happening. Boy, we got a great audience today. I'm really excited about this. Probably one of the bigger audiences we've had. Very, very exciting, yes. Chat kind of went quiet. I was having a lot of fun reacting to chat. I did want to talk about this CZ thing, so let's find that. We're doing really good on X too. Actually at 134 on X, and 44 between Kick and I must have about 3 or 4 people watching on Kick, mostly watching on YouTube, and I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys very much. Let's see. You know, I didn't. Wait, did I bookmark it? I might have bookmarked it. Let me see. Do do. Aiden says, sure, and you didn't see the horse and buggy companies adopting cars. Exactly. Exactly. Car companies just ate the horse and buggy companies. So that could be how it goes. And yeah, possibly. But they have to build something that people absolutely want. Let's see. I actually don't want to. Okay, hold on. Let me. Okay, we're going to talk about this. Oh, Milk. I'm sorry, Mike Mara says, so it's a bad time to invest in Algorand. I don't know. I'm not going to give any investment advice. If it's a, I might take, there's not a lot of stuff I'm investing in right now. Other than I started to buy a little bit of Mel Gold just because I want some gold exposure, and it seems like a good way to do it. And I can do it on the Algorand blockchain, so I think that's kind of fun. And I'm adding to my Bitcoin bags just because I'm dollar cost averaging in and not taking profits on it. Hey Tone says, can this be a case of advertising to the people that count, as in CEOs of companies and institutions, spend their time playing chess or yachting around the world? Yeah, I don't think we saw that work very well, did we? I mean, that might be the play, but it didn't really work. Here we got CZ. Now, as you know, so CZ from Binance, and I'm not even gonna try to, I'm not gonna try to pronounce his name. We'll just go with CZ from Binance. So he got well, this is important. Let's read through this. So this is what Elizabeth Warren, a senator, said. CZ pleaded guilty to a criminal money laundering charge and was sentenced to prison. Not true. He says, but then he financed Trump's stablecoin and lobbied for a pardon. Kind of true. That part's kind of true. Today he got it. Congress does not stop this kind of corruption. It owns it. Or if Congress does not stop this kind of corruption, it owns it. So, by the way, not true. And then here, Teresa Goody Gullion. I don't know who that is. Who is that? Is this a screenshot? Okay, so I don't know who this is. CZ says a U.S. senator cannot get her facts right in a public post about a person's charge. There were no money laundering charges. Now, what was it? What does he mean? I think he says it here. CZ was rightfully pardoned by POTUS for a single charge of failure to have an effective compliance program, no fraud, no victims, no criminal history, and no money laundering. She just defamed him. A sitting U.S. senator just defamed CZ from Binance. He could sue her. I don't know if you know this. He could absolutely sue her because he just said something completely false. She said something about him completely false, basically convicted him of a crime he did not commit. That is, listen, I spent a long time covering crime as a reporter. You can't do that. That is like the biggest no-no. That is a slam dunk defamation case. He's screwed. Noah Flood said, it's a great name, by the way. Noah Floods, I like it. Noah Flood says, do you buy physical gold? I'm actually buying it on, I'm buying Meld Gold on Algorand. But anyway, let's go through. So he said a U.S. senator can't get her facts right in a public post about a person's charge. There was no money laundering charges. That is true. The same senator declared war on crypto on public TV 5 days before my sentencing during the Biden administration. Need a better example of weaponization of Biden's DOJ against crypto? That's the one. And listen, I don't know. Did CZ do some stuff wrong? I don't know. As I said, that's defamation, brother. Sue her. We sure do. She's an embarrassment to America. Again, congrats, says Crypto Wendio. Now, should he have been pardoned? That's another matter. I could see why. I could see probably. I'm generally gonna say yeah, because I thought that it was very excessive to just not have, to just not have those the proper stuff in place. Like that's not a prison offense. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. Total BS. And I think CZ's right here. Um, Opsaref says, "Isn't she getting big pharma money?" Yes, they all are. They're all getting paid, man. Don't trust any of these politicians, okay? They're all getting paid. They're all making payola. Just don't even I see people get bent out of shape trying to defend this politician and that politician. Just they're not your friends, okay? They're in there for themselves. That's what it always is. So yeah, I just wanted to cover that because I think it was pretty interesting. I think that's some really interesting crypto news. And I don't know, one thing we can talk about while we're finishing up, since we still got a pretty good audience watching, is this news around Kadena. And we covered it a little bit earlier. Let me get a little water. I was only vaguely aware of Kadena. I haven't like really looked into it super deeply, just so you know. But I thought this was interesting. This was making the rounds. We started JP Morgan's first blockchain and SEC Gov crypto group. Well, oops. We regret to announce that Kadena organization is no longer able to continue business operations and will be ceasing all business activity and active maintenance of the Kadena blockchain immediately. We are tremendously grateful to everyone who has participated in this journey with us. We regret that because of market conditions, we are unable to continue promote and support the adoption of this unique decentralized offering. We have notified our staff that we'll be ceasing operations, retaining a small team for handling this period of transition and wind down. For questions and concerns, please contact operations@kadena.io. Kadena blockchain is not owned and operated by the company as a thoroughly decentralized proof of work smart contract blockchain. The network is operated by independent miners, while on-chain smart contracts and protocols are governed independently by their maintainers. So, just because the operation is shutting down, the blockchain is going to keep going, which is what it's supposed to actually do, right? For operational continuity, it will provide a new binary that ensures uninterrupted operation without our involvement, and will be encouraging all node operators to upgrade as soon as possible. So yeah, it looks like the node runners are going to be taking over. And I think this is interesting because maybe this is what happens with Algorand. Maybe Algorand starts someday, because the foundation is going to run out of money, and I don't see them having a way to continue. So it's going to be like up to us. It's going to be the people running the blockchain, which now there's a bunch of node runners. It's one of the most decentralized in terms of node running, which is nice to see. So yeah, by the way, if you haven't hit the like button already, please do so. And if you're not subscribed, we do this every Friday. I've actually thought about going to 2 days a week on streaming and then just publishing clips outside of that, maybe. So especially with today's audience, that was pretty awesome. We had a pretty good size audience today, which is fun. Big audience on X, nice to see. I could see doing Monday and Friday maybe. So if you guys want that, let me know. But definitely subscribe. We always do this got through. We always do Friday for sure. Friday about 10:30 to 10:30 Central Standard Time. 13 million views on this. It's probably the biggest views that they ever got. I think that's about all I wanted to cover. So we had a nice little audience today. Good. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. I appreciate that. I think there was a lot to talk about. I know, Aiden, I know you're still, IMJ says, thanks for the chat and good info. I appreciate that. I just want to cover this stuff, and I want to cover it honestly. I don't want to like snowball you guys. Like I said, I can't stand the word FUD. It drives me nuts because we can't talk about stuff honestly if we use words like that. people can do whatever they want. I just don't think it makes sense. So thanks so much for tuning in. Like I said, if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. And we do have a community. You can see my experiments and portfolio reviews. I try stuff out and I see how it works. I see if it actually works the way it's supposed to. Because, you know, a lot of stuff, it says you can't even trust the APYs that they give you. They'll say, oh, you get this APY. It's actually not that. Crypto One saying, GM, what's up? Sorry, we're just about wrapping up for you. So we try stuff out. We see how it actually goes, because I gotta tell you, there's so many stuff I tried in crypto and people would be like, oh yeah, it's the greatest thing ever. And you get this and that, you know, I actually do it. It doesn't work that way so often. So I'm like, well, I want to try stuff out and show you what actually works and what doesn't. One of my favorites has been the Alpha Arcade experiment. I mean, it's just been going well. BC, sorry, I'm going to leave that a mystery. BC is me. That's all. That's what you need to know there. So thanks so much, guys. I hope you have a good day. Thanks for tuning in.